There is a 5-gallon bucket sitting behind my woodshed, tucked in the corner where it stays in the shade. It's half full of rainwater, a handful of dead leaves, and 1 heaping teaspoon of something you can buy at any hardware store for about $17. Every female mosquito within range of this property is flying toward that bucket right now to lay her eggs, and every single egg she lays in it is going to die within 24 hours. It won't harm my honeybees. It won't harm the butterflies in my wife's flower garden. It won't harm my chickens, the barn cats, or the children running barefoot through the yard at dusk. It only kills one thing. My name is Brother Abram. I keep bees on this farm. My wife tends a 1/4 acre of flowers that the pollinators depend on from May through October. There hasn't been a spray truck down this road in years. No chemical company on retainer, no subscription, no monthly bill, and the mosquitoes on this property are not a problem. I want to show you exactly what I do and why it works. At the end of this, there's something I owe you, something that should make you a little uneasy. Not angry, just uneasy. Stay with me. The folks in my community have used this method for a long time. People outside it almost never hear about it. And there's a reason for that. I'll get there. But let me start with what most folks get wrong. Because if you don't understand this one thing, none of the rest matters. The common approach to mosquito control is spraying. A truck comes out, or you spray yourself, and the chemical fog knocks down the adults flying around in the air. That does something. I won't tell you it does nothing. But here's what it misses. Every mosquito biting you in your backyard was born in your backyard, not in the woods down the road, not blown in from somewhere else. Born right there on your property, in standing water you probably walked past without thinking about it. Mosquitoes need water to reproduce. A female lays her eggs in it. The eggs hatch into larvae, the little wigglers you've probably seen in a stagnant bucket or a puddle. The larvae feed and grow, become pupae, and then emerge as adults. From egg to biting adult can take as little as a week when the weather is warm. If there's standing water on your property sitting undisturbed for 5 to 7 days, you're running a mosquito hatchery on your own land. A bottle cap of water held in the fold of a tarp is enough. A clogged gutter? The saucer under a potted plant on the porch? So when you spray the adults, you kill what's already hatched. But the eggs waiting in that saucer keep hatching. A week later, you're right back where you started. That's the cycle the spray companies live on. What we're going to do is break the cycle at the source by building a trap that draws mosquitoes in and kills their eggs before any of them ever grow wings. Start with a 5-gallon bucket, and the first thing people get wrong is the color. White won't work, green won't work, blue and yellow won't work. You want red, black, or orange. Research on how mosquitoes locate targets shows that dark, warm-toned colors pull egg-laying females in. Scientists studying the visual behavior of mosquitoes found that after they lock on to a potential breeding site, they're drawn strongly to red, black, and orange, the same colors associated with warm-blooded animals. A white bucket sitting in the yard corner is nearly invisible to her. A dark red or black one is exactly what she's hunting for. Wrong color means the bucket sits there and does nothing, and you'll never know why it isn't working. So start with the right color. That's the first mistake. Don't skip it. Fill the bucket about 1/3 of the way with water. Then do something that looks like a mistake. Throw in some dead leaves and grass clippings. Whatever yard debris is already breaking down nearby. You want this bucket to look and smell like a small, ugly swamp. Here's why. Female mosquitoes don't just need any water. They need the right kind. Still, dark, organically rich water with the smell of decomposition. As leaves and debris break down in water, they release chemical cues that tell a gravid female, a female carrying eggs, and looking for a place to deposit them, that this is the spot. Safe, still, full of what the larvae will need to feed on when they hatch. You're not building an aquarium. You're giving her exactly what she's looking for. Keep the water messy. Clean water doesn't smell right to her, and she'll pass right by it. That's the second mistake. Too clean a bucket. No result. Now here's what turns this ugly bucket into something that ends her. You need to add a bacterium that occurs naturally in soil. Mosquito larvae eat it when they feed on the organic particles in the water, and it destroys the lining of their gut. They never make it to the pupa stage. They die in the water as larvae. The name is BTI. The full name is Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, which is a mouthful nobody needs to memorize. It's specifically lethal to mosquito larvae and a few close relatives that share the same gut chemistry. Everything else is unaffected. Not bees, not butterflies, not fish, not frogs, not birds, not dogs, not children. The EPA has reviewed it thoroughly and registered it for exactly this use. You can buy BTI at most hardware stores or farm supply stores in two forms, dunks and granules. The dunks are shaped like small donuts, and they work well for ponds or rain barrels because they're designed for larger volumes of water. For a 5-gallon bucket, a dunk is more than you need and more expensive per use. Go with the granules. 1 heaping teaspoon in the bucket. That's the whole of it. A small bag of BTI granules costs about $17 and will last you the entire season. You don't have to stir it in. It breaks down on its own and spreads through the water. Within 24 hours of hatching, every larva in that bucket is dead. The BTI keeps working for about 4 weeks before you need to add another teaspoon. Where you put the bucket matters just as much as what you put in it. Don't set it on the deck. Don't put it near the back door or anywhere people are coming and going. Female mosquitoes prefer still, undisturbed water, and they avoid areas with heavy foot traffic. If the bucket sits where your family spends time, she'll pass it by. Find a shaded corner of the yard, behind a shed, under a deck, at the base of a fence. Shaded and quiet. That's what she's looking for. So that's what you give her, because you want her choosing this bucket over every other bit of standing water on the property. The shade also slows evaporation and keeps the water stable longer. The third mistake, the one that kills the whole system quietly over time, is leaving the bucket uncovered. A few inches of rain in a week dilutes the water, thins out the organic material, and drops the BTI concentration. The bucket stops working. You won't notice it stopped. The water just looks like water. Fix it with a simple tripod cover made from 3 wooden dowels and a matching bucket lid. Push the dowels through the lid, spaced evenly, like a tripod. Run a short screw through the lid into each dowel, with a washer at each one for stability. Press the legs into the ground around the outside of the bucket, so the lid sits at least 6 inches above the rim. That 6-inch gap is the whole point. The rain stays out, but the bucket stays open, so mosquitoes can still smell the water, still find it, still land and lay. Don't cut holes in the lid and don't seal the top. Either one defeats the purpose. After 4 weeks, add 1 more heaping teaspoon of BTI granules. Don't dump the water out. Older decomposing water is more attractive to mosquitoes, not less. She's hunting for a rich environment, and you want to keep giving her that. Just refresh the BTI and leave everything else alone. At the end of the season, dump it out and start fresh in spring. One thing before I get to what I owe you. Small animals, a mouse or a chipmunk, can fall into a bucket and find no way out. Drop a stick in, any branch from the yard, leaned at an angle from the bottom up past the rim. A small animal will find it and use it. It won't interfere with the trap at all. Now, I owe you the honest word I promised at the start. Professional mosquito spraying. The kind where a company comes on a schedule and treats your yard. Runs somewhere between $350 and $550 for a typical season. Some people pay more. The chemicals most companies use are broad-spectrum synthetic insecticides. They knock down adult mosquitoes. Yes, but they also reach bees and butterflies resting on the same shrubs, the spray coats. Organizations tracking pollinator health have been raising this concern for years because the harm is real and the timing makes it worse. Spray services treat during the months when pollinators are most active. BTI does none of that. It doesn't touch adult insects. It works in the water, on the larvae, before a single one of them ever becomes something that can bite you. BTI has been registered with the EPA for decades. It isn't a new discovery, and it isn't hard to find. So why don't pest control companies offer it? Because a $17 bag of granules, maintained a few times a season, doesn't generate a recurring service contract. There's nothing in it for a company with trucks and schedules to point you toward a bucket you fill yourself and check once a month. That's not a conspiracy. It's quieter than that. Nobody selling a mosquito service has any reason to tell you about this. So most people go year after year, never hearing a word about it. Now let me be honest about what this bucket won't do. If your neighbor has a pond or a low wet spot that never dries out, mosquitoes from that source will still cross the property line. The bucket targets container breeders, the species that lay in small, artificial water sources, like the ones hiding around most residential yards. Those tend to be the most aggressive backyard biters, so you'll notice a real difference. But the bucket isn't a wall. The system works best when you also walk your property and remove standing water where you find it. Dump the saucers, clear the gutters, tip the wheelbarrow after rain. The bucket is the centerpiece. One handles a typical yard well. If you have a larger property with multiple shaded edges, set out 2 or 3. Here is what I want you to do this weekend. Get a dark 5-gallon bucket, red, black, or orange. Pick up some BTI granules at the hardware store or order them online. Grab some dead leaves from the yard. Fill the bucket a third of the way. Throw in the leaves, add 1 teaspoon of granules, and tuck it into the shadiest corner, away from where people spend time. There's no electricity needed, no contract to maintain. You won't even be home when it works. The people in this community figured out a long time ago that the fight happens in the water, not in the air. A bacterium in a bucket is more useful than a spray truck at the end of the driveway, and it doesn't cost your bees anything. Tell me in the comments where you're located and what your mosquito situation is like right now. If you try the bucket this weekend, come back and tell me what you found. I read every one of those comments. Next time, I want to show you what plain communities have used for generations to keep flies away from food storage areas in summer. It involves a jar, some apple cider, and a piece of folded paper. And it works in a way most folks find hard to believe until they see it. The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.